Hello, everyone. This is John from Coins, RPGs, and more. And today I have a special treat for everyone. I'm going to be interviewing Calgal. Calgal is the pseudonym of a person who is very special to me. In fact, she is my mother, and she has had a very special influence on my journey in the world of gaming and as a game master, and as well as a player. Calgal, would you be willing to share just a little bit of information about yourself to the viewers?
I certainly will. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. So, because I've grown up as I've gotten older, so yeah, it's been quite a journey with the whole D&D fun.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask, to start off this sort of interview we're going to do, we're going to talk about your experiences, the good and the bad, and whatever you're willing to share with us. So
Okay.
to start off, what were you doing in 1974 when the original edition of Dungeons and Dragons was released? Did you encounter it at all during the mid to late 70s or the 80s?
No, not that early. I was busy going to school. I was in a master's program, and then I was married and moved to another state, and busy being mom, having my first child. So no, I did not encounter any of that in the 70s. In the 80s, again, I was mom, and I had 3 more children, and I was just busy being mom. So that's all I remember.
Okay, that's fair. So, so you never remember really hearing anything about it at all during that time?
Probably towards the end of the 80s, by 1988, 89, I think I was becoming aware of it. Because that's when it started coming up, when my kids were in school, and they would start talking about, what other people were doing, and Dungeons and Dragons came up. So I think that's actually the first thing I remember is Magic the Gathering being popular.
Yeah, that's true.
The first thing I remember, and Mario Brothers, and
yeah,
video games, and so that's my first experience with my children.
Okay.
That I recall. I'm old. It's hard for me to remember all these dates.
All right then. What led you to try actually playing D&D or other RPGs for the first time?
Okay, well, I will give you a little bit more background on that, because when my 2 boys became interested in Dungeons and Dragons, I was very concerned. I didn't like the whole idea, because to me it sounded like a whole lot of killing and negativity, and kind of smashing, bashing things, and it was bad enough in video games, but then if you're sitting down and playing with other people at a table and you're talking about killing monsters and stuff, it just sounded awful to me. So I really gave my 2 boys, including you, a very hard time when they first wanted to start playing D&D. I didn't stop them, but I did caution them and say I didn't like it, and this is why, and I found it negative, and I said, this is what you have to be careful of, because you are forming your personalities at that age. Say in middle school, when you first became interested, I think, and that's when I was worried about the influence it would have on you growing up, and how it would affect your personality. So that was my concern at the time. A little later on down the road, my youngest daughter became interested in D&D also. And I felt like, okay, this is a losing battle. It's really popular. I need to find a way to make sure that she wants to play it, and I need to make sure there's a way that I can do this safely and kind of have a little more control over what type of game she plays and such. So at that time I was back in school again. I was getting a second master's degree, and I became friends with a lot of the other people in the program. We were a very tight group. And two of the people that I was in program with were D&D players. And so I started talking to them about it, and I said, I don't think this is great. And they were assuring me it's a lot of fun and it's okay. And I'm going, yeah, whatever. Then I said, my daughter is interested in playing D&D, and I said, I've dissuaded her from doing it so far, but I just don't know how to handle this. So one of my good friends said, tell you what, I will host a D&D game for her. And I said, can you do it so that it's a little bit, PG and friendly to a young girl? And he said, oh yeah, no problem, I could do that. I said, okay, I trust you, and I'll go ahead and bring her to play a game or two with you. And he said, okay, on one condition. I said, what's that? He said, you have to play also. I said, no, I'm not playing. I'll watch. I want to listen. Sure, but I'm not going to play. I've been against this the whole time. Me play it? You must be joking. And he said, okay, I'm not going to do it. Fine, I'll play. So that was my start. And it was actually, my daughter was in middle school, and it was becoming difficult to relate to her on a lot of levels. I was constantly the one knowing everything and telling her what to do. What really hit me when we first started playing with my friend, and he had a couple of his friends also in the room, Katie knew much more about this than I did. And I had to rely on her to help me through it. I had to ask her the questions. She was the one that was knowledgeable because she understood how it had developed, and how the game should go. So it flipped the tables on us, and that was the best thing that ever happened, because it gave my daughter more confidence, and it gave me, and I gained more respect for her knowledge and her ability to take over and take charge and show me how to do things. So it was really a very wonderful experience, one that that part of it I did not expect. So that was really, I think, the best part of the whole young experience for me at that time.
Thank you. That is an awesome story. I never get tired of hearing that story.
Good. Yeah, well, sorry, I was a little bit negative to start with.
Well, it's the honest truth.
Yeah, I was.
So it was.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, what have your experiences with RPGs, role-playing games, been like?
Well, since then, I kind of became hooked, and I really enjoyed playing with that person as a DM. And he was really good at it. And so pretty soon I started playing with him, with some of his other buddies. And then then we were able to have some games with you and Katie, and you all got to, well, had a fun time together. And it was a real meeting of minds for us, especially because I was just one of the gang. And when you get to the table, you're all equal. You know, in fact, I felt much less competent than anybody else at the table because I hadn't grown up with it, and I really had trouble making quick decisions. So so that was something I had to develop. I had to figure out how to work on that.
During that time, when you were playing both with your friend from grad school as well as when you played since then, the few times you have you ever encountered a situation where you were made uncomfortable by another player or a game master based on your age or your gender?
No, I really haven't. I think anytime I have sat down at a table, even with people that I don't know well, I've always been welcomed. Like I said, the only hesitation is that I felt like I wasn't as experienced as I should be, and trying to think on my feet, so to speak. You know, when someone say, okay, your turn's over now, what are you going to do? I'm going, me? What am I going to, I don't know. What am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. And this is all going around in my head. So I had to, you know, I kind of relied on other people at the table to give me a little bit of guidance to what I could do. And everybody was really good about giving suggestions and helping me along, helping me how to move forward as a character in the games. So no, I have not received any negative. I think that's, you know, I like to surround myself with good people, and I've concentrated on that, and I think that's got to be part of it. People have been very welcoming to me, so I have not experienced that at all.
I'm very grateful to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any advice that you'd like to offer towards people in your position, perhaps, that might be thinking about getting into role-playing games for the first time, maybe as like a retirement project, or just something that they want to do with their kids?
I really recommend that you start with your own kids. I mean, that was my experience, and that was very positive. It was also very positive because I knew who was going to be DMing the games, and I knew pretty much how it would go. I think the most important thing, if you're thinking about starting, is to make sure that you have a good friend group, just like any other kind of group that you might want to join, whether it's, you know, anything creative. You want to be surrounded by positive people that you like, and people that have the same kind of creative interests that you do. So I think if you are interested in it, just go for it, because and it's okay to be intimidated. I mean, it's humbling, and that's okay too. It's okay to struggle with it and say, I do not understand what a D12 is. What's that? Or whatever the terminology, because a lot of terminology you have to learn, and I still don't know it all, but I enjoy it anyway because people help me figure out what I'm supposed to know. So I think, yeah, the most important thing is just to be surrounded by hopefully your family. If not your family, then positive people that you enjoy being with.
Okay. And do you have any advice that you could offer or suggestions that you could offer towards younger players or more veteran players and game masters to help them make their tables more welcoming for someone who's coming to the game new, but with a lot of life experiences?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. If you are at a table with a new person that is not quite sure what they're doing, whether they be young or old, I think giving them the space to take time to think about what they want to do and not rush them too much, because I know the games go pretty fast. And you have to really pay attention to what everybody's doing on the table. When you reach, say, if you reach a battle scene, you have to understand where everybody's standing, what they're doing, what they're holding, what abilities they have. You have to understand your own abilities. So if it's a new player, that's overwhelming. And so it's good to give them a little bit of space and also give them a little bit of instruction as you're going along to help them understand how to best be a partner in the game, not necessarily just, I don't know, some people can just be rude rather than a partner. If they're just starting off and they don't really understand it, they might come off harsh or rude or something. And so it might take some patience to help a new person figure out the best way to play in a role-playing game. Does that make sense?
Oh, that does. That makes a lot of sense. In your experience, did having maps on the table or miniatures on the table help that process?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I love the miniatures. I love the way that the grids are set up on the table. I love the when you can build your own little world on the table, and you've got bushes and you've got dungeons and you've got towers and whatever, you know, goes on. It really it enriches the game, and it really makes the thinking process easier to get into the game when you see the tabletop and how it's set up. So yeah, I love the miniatures and everything. Is just fabulous.
Well, I have a fun question for you.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share with us your favorite character that you've played over the years?
Whoa.
One that sticks out in your mind.
Well, I have to say the one that sticks out in my mind the most was the first character I ever played, because I wanted to, I didn't want to be violent, and I wanted to be, you know, one with nature and a nice, gentle person. So I decided to be, if I can remember, I was a, help me out because I think you know this. I was a druid.
You were a druid?
I was a druid halfling. So the druid part, because in my mind, if you're a druid, then you are kind of one with nature. You're able to use nature and be close to nature. And a halfling you know, I love the hobbits, so I thought, oh, halfling is fun. You know, I could be a halfling and a druid, and that's just wonderful. I'll play that. And then I had to get a familiar. Now that the game master at the time recommended that I have a toad as a familiar, and I was horrified. I go, I don't want a toad. Why do I want a toad? I want an owl. And he's going, you don't need an owl. I said, yes, I do. I want an owl. An owl can fly ahead and see things, come back and report to me, or it can fly overhead. He said, you know, we are going into dungeons. I said, that's okay. Okay. So that was my first character. And as the game went on, I mean, I figured out what I could do and what I could not do. I had a short, I don't know what it's called, a dagger, that I could wield as my most intimidating weapon. And we got to the towards the exciting part of the game where there's this big, I think it was I don't know, an ogre or something that was pouncing on everybody, and everybody was losing their lives and getting pounced on, and I was getting really angry about this whole thing. And so I decided I was going to attack. So I attacked with my little halfling dagger and kept rolling like ones and zeros and nothings, and I was doing nothing. And so the joke became, are you dead yet? Are you dead yet? And, so I guess that's the most memorable.
Okay.
I can't say that it was my favorite thing, because I learned very quickly that it's good to have a little more power in the games. And my owl was very friendly, but not terribly helpful in a dungeon. So it's something you just you learn by doing.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
And it's interesting to me because when you played that character, that was in the, I believe it was the 3.5 edition of the game. So
Right.
third edition, but the 3.5 part of third edition.
Uh-huh.
And your halfling druid was a very good character, just maybe not the best dungeon crawler.
Right. Yeah. I was able to heal.
You did. You healed
healer.
very well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, it was quite memorable. You know, as embarrassed as I was that I was this, you know, I couldn't do anything. It was like I was just standing by watching my whole team get demolished, and I hated that. So that's when I first figured out, you know, okay, should have had the toad. The toad would have given me strength. Owl did not.
Well,
listen to your DM.
Almost always wise advice.
Yeah, yeah.
So before we wrap this up, I do have one final question for you, and this is not gaming related.
Oh.
But you have an impressive background behind you, and I happen to know a little something about it. Would you be willing to share with the audience a little bit about your background image?
My background, on my background image.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Well, I began early in life when I was about 2, holding a crayon and making beautiful colors with crayons. My favorite thing to do, and I loved ordering all my colors and making everything perfect, and that was the most happiest time of my life, was just playing with my crayons. Since then, I have completely developed a love of painting and colors, and I haven't done too much with it as I was growing up, and my kids were growing up because of time. I started painting watercolors and roses. So I kind of did that for years and years. Once I retired, then I decided it was time to actually start taking my art seriously. So I began doing a little more with watercolors. And then my both of my sons, you and my eldest, gave me a lot of acrylic paint, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I thought, well, time to start something new. So I started playing with acrylics and did a lot of YouTube, you know, practicing with other artists on YouTube and watching their videos. And so now I'm enjoying painting with both acrylics and with watercolors. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay, and so that image is something that you painted yourself.
Yeah, this is one of my first acrylics that I did because I love the ocean so much. So this is one of the first acrylics that I painted when I started my new hobby. So and I enjoy it. I really do. It's not like, you know, I'm not showing any work. I'm not selling anything. I'm really doing this as something that I thoroughly enjoy, and it's almost a guilty pleasure for me because I love doing it so much, and I could really ignore the rest of the world for hours and hours and hours and just paint, and I can't do that all the time, but it's fun to immerse myself into it once in a while.
I think you've definitely earned those once in a while moments to indulge yourself fully in your art for as long as you like.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do have a lot of wonderful support. My husband supports me completely in doing a lot of my art, and whether it's sketching or watercolor or painting or even some sewing. I mean, I like to sew too. So all of those things are just so delightful to be able to participate in and have the support of my husband and the rest of my family too. That it's just a real blessing in my 70s.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that little bit about yourself and about your hobbies outside of role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for your insights about role-playing games, because it's most of the time when I do research on role-playing games, and I hear from people who are older than myself, most of the time it's from people that have been playing the hobby since they were knee-high to a grasshopper.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah. I think it's important that we kind of hear from people that came to the hobby a little bit later. That's why I really wanted to make sure that you and I had this chat and we could share it with my channel, because I want other people to see, even if you're just a relative of someone who's really into gaming, or if you're a parent or a grandparent and your grandkids or your kids are really into playing a role-playing game, to see that it's not too late.
Oh no.
To get started.
No, never too late. It's always a new adventure. Yeah. And like I say, the best part is just being around a table with your loved ones, family, friends, whatever, and getting into a different character than you ordinarily would, and it's kind of a get out of yourself and get into another whole world, another whole dimension of fantasy that is very enlightening and joyful to play.
Well, thank you again. And I hope you folks, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, maybe subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment about what we've talked about during this video. Maybe share some of your own experiences about coming to how you came to the game, and what was special and maybe what was hard as well. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for stopping by. Peace be with you.
Thank you.